Hello. All right, so this week is week 5, and we are going to go over prototyping and accessibility. All right, so as an overview, we're going to introduce your midterm first, and then we're going to go into design accessibility, prototyping functions, and then go over basic prototyping. All right, yes. Attendance form. Please fill out if you're enrolled. And then this is a slide deck link. All right, so what is the midterm? You are going to create a project about a local restaurant. So for this midterm, we'd like you to see a project through from start to finish, following one of 4 set prompts with the option to create your own prompt. So why local restaurants? First of all, there is a level of personal familiarity. So you'd be selecting a business that you and people you know have been to, and you can conduct user research through analyzing both your own experiences and also those of your friends and family. Second one is going to be tangibility. So a lot of design is hypothetical, but by picking a real establishment, especially a local one, and one that you personally care about, you can easily visualize real world problems and develop more tangible solutions. And the last reason is going to be community. So restaurants inherently create culture by providing space. So as you design, you should consider both the physical location and also the staff of the restaurant, as well as the community that it provides for. All right, so the first 2 prompts are going to be for visual design. The first one is going to be branding, where you can redesign the restaurant's branding and create one marketing illustration. So the first step would be to examine existing branding. Second step would be to redesign the branding system. The third step would be creating one marketing illustration. So that could be a menu or poster. And the fourth step is that we require you to use pen tool and vector networks in this particular prompt. And the second prompt is going to be illustration. So you're going to create 3 illustrations inspired by the restaurant. So first, examine the restaurant's visual identity to create 3 illustrations inspired by it, and the minimum size that we want you to make should be Figma's A4 size. And once again, we would like you to use the pen tool and also vector networks. All right, so the other 2 prompts are for UI UX. The first one is going to be web, where you can redesign the restaurant's existing website. So you're going to look at the existing website currently and then create 3 to 4 screens showing low, mid, and high fidelity wireframes for it. And your screen should be desktop or web dimensions, which should also be like preset in Figma. And we are going to require you to use components and also variants in this prompt. So the last prompt is going to be mobile, where you design a delivery app specific to the restaurant. So once again, you're going to create 3 to 4 screens showing low, mid, and high fidelity wireframes, and your phones should be phone screen dimensions. Once again, that should already be preset in Figma. And you should use components and variants in this prompt as well. Okay, and the last option that is a little more flexible is that you can submit your own project proposal. So you can write up to 250 words about like a brief but clear overview of what you want to make and a set of requirements similar to what we required you. And you have to use either pen tool or components in your project. So these are going to be due this Friday, October 6th at 11:59 p.m. and you should receive feedback via Slack by Sunday. Oh, and you don't have to, if you don't want to if you just want to use the prompts that we gave you, don't worry about turning in the project proposal. Okay, so the entire midterm, so all of your work is going to be due in 2 weeks from now on Tuesday, October 17th by 11:59 p.m., which is going to be the night of lecture 7, and it's available for up to 70% credit until that Friday. So you're going to turn in your Figma file, which should encompass your entire process. So we want to see all of your work just to see like how you brainstormed and came up with your final prompt. And with that being said, we do want you to clearly label what your final project is. So there might be a lot of stuff in your file, but like please like label the frame or like create a different page for your final product. And you must include the link to this entire Figma file as part of your write-up. which is going to be the second part that you're turning in. So the write-up is going to be a PDF with the Figma file link included. And this write-up with 300 words maximum should describe the restaurant, why you selected it, your design process, research and challenges, and an overview of your final project designs. Right, so you get one slip day, which is 24 additional hours to submit either the midterm or final project without penalty. So if you use it for this midterm, you can't use it for the final. But if you don't use it for this midterm, you can use the slip day for the final. So we automatically apply the slip day where it best impacts your grade. For example, the final is weighted more than the midterm. So if you need a day either way, or if you take a day, both times we'll weight it toward your final just because it applies more. But that being said, if you need an extension for personal reasons, we understand, but please let us know by the Wednesday before the project deadline. So that would be next Wednesday. And please also contact us via email if you have DSP accommodations, and we'll be sure to apply them or a similar accommodation. Okay, so this is a tiny URL with more information about the midterm. All right. No. All right, so design accessibility. So the concept of accessibility seeks to ensure that products and experiences can be accessed by everyone, regardless of their abilities. So accessibility within design involves considering the needs of people with disabilities. So disabilities are often defined in two ways. One, as a physical or mental impairment that limits one's ability to do certain activities, and two, as the inability of the environment to accommodate for one's needs. So on the picture on the right, you see the sidewalk where it sort of dips into the road, which makes it a lot easier for people with wheelchairs to get on and off the sidewalk. Also easy for bikes and like scooters. Anything with wheels, really. All right, so mismatch personas. As we observe these two definitions, it is helpful to think of disabilities as not permanent condition, but as resulting from many different factors. So the persona chart to the right depicts how many different types of persons with mismatched needs to their environment. So, for example, a person with one arm, that's like a permanent thing, but other mismatches are situational, like a person with a heavy accent in a country that's foreign to them, that is more situational. I'll move my thing so you guys can see it. Yeah. All right. Disability does not equal a mismatch between a person and their environment. Oh, sorry, it does equal. Oh my goodness. Disability does equal a mismatch between a person and their environment. All right, shifting language. So language is flexible. It shifts and changes with cultural norms, and even the most well-intentioned phrases can later be realized as negative. Take, for example, the term hearing impaired. So hearing impaired implies damage to a person's hearing. The phrase focuses on impairment as not the norm and ties a person to their impairment. So over time, the terms deaf or hard of hearing have become more accepted. So usable design functions as intended and is easy and intuitive to use. Accessible design accommodates for the needs of a group of people, and inclusive design includes and applies to as many people as possible. All right, so some examples of accessibility in visual design are going to be an image description, so text descriptions of an image. Text should be concise yet descriptive enough for users to understand context of the image. The second one is going to be color contrast. So text in the background it is on need to meet high enough levels of contrast to be discernible. So this text above actually fails the accessibility guidelines. And the third one is captioning. So closed captioning will transcribe audio into text. So users that may be hard of hearing might use captioning to read alongside a visual program. So color contrast is important to consider in design, as people who have low vision or a form of color vision deficiency might view the information being displayed differently. So the BART map, as well as most transportation maps, like the subway to New York, is color-coded by transportation route. So without any color, it becomes difficult to distinguish between routes. So on the left-hand side, we see the full color version, and on the right-hand side, we see what someone who might have a form of color deficiency see. So it's just all just shades of gray. It's a lot harder to read. So what 3 different types of color dependency and what it may look like as reflected on the bar. All right, so some examples of accessible to inclusive design is tactile paving, so distinct and often bumpy paving, often found at transit stations to warn users of the platform edge. So that's going to be the yellow section on the BART platforms when you get close to the train. The second one is going to be curb cuts. So this actually began in Berkeley through the efforts of Ed Roberts and other disability right activists. And the third one is going to be text to speech and speech to text. So translation from one method to another, which is going to be helpful for users who use a speech or text to speech program to vocalize their thoughts. All right, so revisiting the design pyramid, we want to be right here, which is going to be right in the middle. So universal design. Universal design exists as a sort of culmination of the principles championed by usable, accessible, and inclusive design. So it is design that encompasses the needs of the users to the greatest ability without the need for extra accommodations. So an example of this is going to be the Good Grips vegetable peeler. If you cook or bake, you most likely have used a vegetable peeler at some point of your life, and perhaps the most efficient to use peelers have grippy or indented handles for you to hold on to. So peelers with handles were invented in response to the needs of people with arthritis to provide needed grip support. So as you see the picture on the bottom, the vegetable peeler has these little grooves to make it easier for people to hold. And since this is a common kitchen tool, it's really nice to see that they have applied universal design to this. All right, so basic prototyping. What is prototyping and what is it used for? Prototyping is a process of turning design concepts into tangible forms. So these forms, whether digital or physical, can be tested to reveal insights. So within the context of Figma and other prototyping tools, prototyping allows designers to demonstrate how interfaces will behave and account for how users will interact with interfaces. So recalling fidelity stages, low fidelity is going to be general concept and layout of a design. Mid fidelity is going to be where prototyping is used to observe user interaction and test organization. And high fidelity is going to be where you fully apply prototyping to elevate your design. All right, so prototyping is essentially forming connections between two objects within a frame. So it allows designers to define what happens when a user interacts with A and how A gets to B. So think of frames in a prototype as instances. So if you take these screenshots of this cat's Instagram page, each interaction with the page results in a different instance, from main page to clicking on a post to clicking on the comment button. So A goes to B, goes to C. So as you see in the post, when you click on the post, it opens this different page. And then when you click on the comment icon, it opens this third page. All right, so there can be multiple connections made from one object or frame, as long as each interaction has a different trigger, which we'll cover in a bit. And there can also be multiple interactions made with different objects in the same frame. So if we look at the Instagram saved collections feature as an example of multiple interactions with one object within a frame, so there's two possible interactions. Users can either tap on the save icon to save a post, or alternatively, they can press and hold onto the save icon to save a post to a specific collection. So we interacted with the same icon, but by using different actions, we resulted in different pages. All right, so prototyping panel. If you want to enter prototyping mode, you can navigate to the prototype tab on the right sidebar. So that's going to be right next to the design. When you are in the prototype panel with nothing selected, it should look like this. So while you're in prototype mode, you will only have access to prototyping tools. So to access design tools, you're going to have to switch back to the design panel. And to review the results of you prototyping, you can click on the triangle or present button, also on the right sidebar, like above the prototype. All right, so device settings. Figma is going to offer many options to choose from in terms of devices, and those will help you determine how your prototype will display when you present it. So displays will create better representations of prototypes. And you can also choose to not use a preset device size. So for example, we actually present our slides without using a selected device or prototyping. Okay, yes. Here is an example of different devices being used and the prototype being displayed and how they look on two different screens. All right, so to add a prototype interaction, you're going to select an object while in prototype mode. A blue plus icon with a circle around it or node should appear on that object. So you're going to click and drag that node or hotspot to another object to make the connection. And you can also add interaction using the plus button in the interactions panel. So there's three components of a prototyping interaction. The trigger is going to determine how user interactions will result in which prototype responses. The actions are going to be the reactions of when the triggers are activated. So they decide what happens after a trigger. And the third one, animations, are going to determine how the prototype moves from one frame to another. So interaction details. Once you've made a connection between two frames, you can edit the interaction between them in the interaction details panel. So this is where you can be able to customize the triggers, actions, and animation of the interaction. So this is an example of how we prototyped this bigger salmon colored square to transform into the smaller melon colored square. And since they're prototyped both ways, when you click on it, it goes in a circular motion where it goes from the bigger one to the smaller one and then back again. All right. So what can I do with prototyping tools? A lot. By making some simple connections with the prototyping mode, we can make functional buttons, navigate between frames, and create basic animations. So this week, we will mainly only cover basic prototyping tools and functions. In the future, week 8, we'll go into more detail about advanced prototyping functions. So here, they've prototyped interactions between a playlist, thumbnail, and the Spotify search and results in the playlist main page. So the resulting prototype animation is a screen sliding to the right. So as you can see, they clicked and dragged this little blue node into this next screen and then clicked and dragged the blue node back. So it makes it so you can click back and forth through this playlist thumbnail and the playlist main page. So some prototyping examples with components are going to be checkboxes, animating button clicks, and also swiping blocks away like deleting emails. So while triggers are more self-explanatory, actions and animations can require more nuance to explain. So we'll be exploring more of both in the lab, but for now we'll cover some examples of each. So please recall that actions are reactions to triggers and determine what happens during an interaction. So animations determine how the action is played out. The workspace frames an interaction details panel for an open overlay action. The overlay is housed in a different frame and is folded into to overlay the original frame. So as you see above, this is going to be the resulting overlay animation. This function is typically used for sidebars, pop-ups, and menu functions in interface prototyping. All right, so the second one is going to be navigate to. So this basically means that when you activate the trigger, this is going to move from one screen to another screen. So this function is helpful for switching between different frames or instances in a prototype. Oh, okay. So general Figma animations can follow the movement and look of one of the options shown above. So the trajectory of these animations can be edited by customizing easing curves. So an easing curve is basically going to be, as you see here, these graphs are going to determine how fast your prototyping moves. So some more examples. All right, so prototyping many interactions on the same interface can quickly get complicated. In this screenshot, this is going to be the progress in prototyping for interface you might remember from a previous lecture. So I'll list this isn't complete. It already looks very messy. So this is why it's important to organize your layers. In the image on the left, they didn't really do that. The layers are messy and therefore it's difficult to determine which frame is what. And the image on the right, it's a lot cleaner, it's really organized, and you can see what each slide is. All right, so good organization within your components that you use is also great practice. So the workspace shown to the left has layer components organized by 16 pixels and 32 pixels, as well as their placement in the prototype. So while you prototype in Figma, you can create multiple flows for your prototype in one page to preview different user journeys in your designs. By definition, a flow is a path users take through a series of connected frames. In contrast, a prototype is a collection of these flows. So multiple flows have different starting points, which can be useful for iterating or deciding between designs, also known as A/B testing. So creating a connection between two frames automatically creates a starting point for the new flow. You can create multiple flows using the same frames by adding different starting points. So to add a starting point, you can do one of the following. First, you can select the starting frame, then click in the flow starting point section of the right sidebar. Second, you can select and right-click the starting frame, and then click Add Starting Point. Or third, you can duplicate a frame with an existing starting point. So multiple defined flows allows you to isolate different parts of UI for efficient user testing and feedback. So flow names and descriptions can be edited in the right sidebar under the prototype tab. In presentation mode, you can toggle between each different flow on the same page. And each flow's description is also shown, which is useful to provide prompts to participants for usability tests, documentation, or provide additional context. Okay, demo time. So I'm gonna remove this. Alrighty, so this is going to be our demo. I'm pretty sure it's already done, but I'm just gonna delete these connections real quick. And last one. I'm gonna select this and delete. Okay, and then I'll also delete this. Oh, no. Okay. Okay. All right. So okay. All right. So here we have a meditation app, and we are going to prototype these 4 frames so that they flow into each other. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to click this, and then you can either click this where it says flow starting point because we want this to be the home page and where you start out on the flow, or you can also right click and do the same thing on the screen. All right. And then so after this, we want to open this menu this menu sidebar when you click this little menu icon. So we're going to click this, and then you see when you click this component, this little blue button that has a plus in the middle is going to show up. So you're going to click and drag this so it connects to this sidebar. And then so when you get there, we're going to click navigate to, and then we're actually going to switch it to open overlay because this is an overlay. And then let's see, add background. Sure, yeah, that looks good to me. And then when we get here, we want to get from this sidebar. So this is going to overlay on top of this when you click this button. So then right now we want to get from this sidebar to this setting page. So as you see here on the settings section, you can click this entire section. Once again, this little blue note is going to show up, and then you're going to click and drag so it goes to this page. And then we can keep it to navigate to for this one because this is not an overlay, this is a separate page. So by doing this, it's going to navigate from this home page with the overlay opened directly to this different settings page. All right, so when we get to the settings page, as you see, the difference between this settings page and this is that we're going to activate this button right here. So to do this, we're going to click on this button, and you see this little blue note again, and you're going to click and drag and open this page. And then to do that, we can keep it to navigate to once again because this is a separate page. And yeah, that is going to be your total. Oh, actually, no. And then we want to make this circular so the entire prototype works. So we're going to select this little X right here, in the screen, and we're going to click and drag so that it goes all the way back to this home page so that it closes this entire menu page or setting page. And then we're going to keep it and navigate, that's fine. And then we're going to go back here and click the X and then click it and drag and go here. All right, so when we click on this flow one, as you can see, if we click here, it's going to open the overlay. If we click on settings, it's going to get here. And then if we click on this, it's going to get here. And then if we want to close this entire thing and go back to the home page, it's going to do it like this. Okay. Okay, so to wrap up and some announcements. So homework 5 is going to be to work on your midterm. So this week and also next week, there are no homework assignments so that you can focus on your midterm, and please use your time wisely. We know midterm season is rough. This project is your first chance to basically do anything you want, so go wide and go deep with your ideas and approaches. Oh, and also a reminder, if you want you to create your own project prompt, please submit it by Friday at 11:59 p.m. so we can give you feedback in time. All right, so lab 5 is going to be basic prototyping, and you're going to do this lab with your TA this Thursday. You'll be practicing prototyping, first with some exercises to visualize things, and then with a mock-up of Spotify. All right, so the secret word this week is going to be email. Okay, yeah, and that should be it. Yes, once again, make sure if you want to design your own project, please submit your proposal by Friday, 11:59. So if you do not submit by then, you have to select one of the prompts that we give you. And yeah, your entire midterm is going to be due 2 weeks from now on Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. And once again, if you have any questions about the midterm or anything in general, please come to office hours. They're going to be 10 to 11 a.m. on Friday. Drop by if you have any questions at all, if you want to talk about your midterm project, especially if you have your own proposal, we really recommend that. Yep, thank you so much.